Welcome to the Honest Healing Podcast, real talk for cycle breakers. I'm your host, Katie Delamon. If you're ready to speak up, set boundaries, heal your nervous system, and build better relationships, you're in the right place. Because you don't need to be perfect to heal. You just need to be honest. Let's go. Welcome to episode 8 of the Honest Healing Podcast, Death, Dying, and Plant Medicine. In this episode, I'm joined with the end-of-life doula, Myrthe Peters. We're going to be talking all things death, dying, grief, loss, and you heard right, plant medicine. We'll get into all the different types of plant medicines and how she uses her training as an end-of-life doula, as well as her plant medicine facilitation to help people grieve and to become closer to their most authentic self. Well, welcome, Myrthe, to the Honest Healing Podcast. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Hi, Katie. It is super cool to be here.
And you are joining me all the way from, where are you at?
I am in Portugal, just an hour from Lisbon.
Nice, beautiful. And so me and Myrthe actually met in Australia in a yoga class, which was always a lovely way to meet people. And I remember that I was the teacher and you were the student, and I wanted to go up to you and ask you to hang out, but I felt like there was a code that we weren't supposed to do that. And I think you felt the same way too.
Yeah, and I did brave it on my very last day of my membership.
Yes.
Typically to your class and basically asked you if we could hang out.
Yes.
And we've been hanging out since.
We have
Yeah.
indeed. You're a death doula and a plant medicine facilitator, two very powerful paths. What drew you to this work?
Well, what drew me to this work was that the jobs that I had before, they never felt like I could go deep enough. There was always a lot of admin to work on. There was always very specific rules and KPIs, and I really missed how deep I could go in my human contact with people. And what I noticed was that people I worked with, because I mainly worked for not-for-profit organizations, and in social responsibility, people were actually really longing for that, which meant that the work that I had was hard to do, right? Because we like to give the human nature of the work. We like for that to come first. And then what really was like a permission slip for me was I had an astrology reading a few years ago, and I basically went to the astrologer with a couple of questions around specific fascinations I have. One of them is death and dying and grief and loss, and why that kept coming back. And basically what this astrologer told me was that, okay, this is totally written in your chart. You are meant to be doing something with this. And if you do not take action, a higher force will make it happen. So you better start warming up to this idea that there is something here for you to explore.
Yeah, I love that. And so when we met, well, right before you moved to Portugal, you had done your death doula certificate, which I also am quite fascinated by death and dying and grief and loss and all that stuff. But before you did the work and the certification, how did you see death, grief, and healing? And how is that perspective transformed? And obviously, I'm sure it'll transform even more the deeper you go, but how has it
Yeah.
changed from when you first, before you had the certificate?
It was very much a conditioned belief that needs to be avoided. We cannot talk about death. It's yucky, it's sticky, it's painful. Yes, that is true. And there is very much another side of this as well. And that was a side that had been repressed by the way I grew up, right? In the West, in the white West, we are not really taught what it is like to be with death, to be with grief, to have ritual around this, to have moments of deep presence. So once I started to I would say the real turning point was the reading with this astrologer.
Mm,
From there, I did the training, and also going on the training. The moment we started, it just felt like coming home, and what was presented and what was taught made so much sense to me it was a very visceral experience. It was not just something from the mind. It was like my whole system responded to a knowing that had been there all along.
I love that. Yeah.
Yeah,
And so, what do you think the single biggest myth or misunderstanding is about death?
that is such a good question.
Mm,
I think there's actually two. The first one is that there is mainly only the death of a physical body.
mm,
And that is not true. There are so many deaths. Death
mm,
happens all around us all the time. I mean, a walk in nature says it all, right? There is the cycles of nature. As women, we have menstrual cycles. That is a death. Our skin
mm,
comes off. That's a death. There is a death of identity, parts of ourselves that no longer suit us. The
mm,
death of a relationship, the death of a pet.
mm,
So it goes way beyond the death of a physical body.
mm,
And then the other one that I find worth mentioning is that when we talk about death, it will bring it closer. That is such
mm.
a myth. It's a real fear of people. So we obviously need to acknowledge that there's something underlying that, yeah. But actually,
Yeah.
the opposite is true. The more we talk about it, the more we become familiar with different types of endings,
Mm,
the more we create space for the present moment.
yeah. And I always say every choice comes with a loss. There's literally a death with every choice you make. You have to grieve
So
the
true.
fact that when you choose A, you're not going to get the rest of the alphabet. When you choose
Yeah.
B, and you're not going to get A or the other parts of the alphabet. Like
Yeah.
every single choice that we make comes with grief. And if you aren't present, that grief of just missing out or just making different decisions is what people get so overwhelmed by.
Yeah.
And
True.
we'll get into the plant medicine in a moment, but have you ever seen like unprocessed fear of death quickly shape the way people live or how they stop themselves from truly living?
Yeah, absolutely. It's actually very common because we are not taught what A, death is,
Mm,
B, how to grieve. And when we don't grieve, it's a huge loss, ironically, right? Because grief is one of the biggest tools to personal transformation. It requires us to really reassess and recalibrate our whole environment. That also includes our internal one, right? Our emotions, they need proper tending to. Our environment changes, so we need to reshape relationships we have with others.
mm,
Um, Sometimes it's about moving stuff about in a house,
mm,
right? Um, so the recalibration is huge, and when people are not aware that this is actually available to them, they get very stuck, and they can get stuck in many ways, and that shows up as a dysregulated nervous system,
mm-hmm,
right? People will get depressed, people have creativity blocks.
mm-hmm,
Autoimmune is a huge
mm-hmm.
one, actually, particularly particularly for women. Women have a way higher chance of um,
80%.
yes, getting
Yeah.
autoimmune disease through unprocessed grief.
Mm-hmm,
So actually offering people a new narrative around this and teaching them how to become familiar with it, and intimate, right? It's a sense of intimacy that we can create.
mm.
And once we connect to that, it will open up a whole new space for us.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel so grateful that I have had to come up against death so early on in my life.
Yeah,
So my mom passed away when I was
yeah,
26, and my husband had a full-on stroke when I was 32. He was 42. It was like he almost died right in front of me. But I feel so grateful because we can get into this a little bit as well. It has taught me how to live my life so differently and in the
Mm.
best way possible. Literally, there is not a day that goes by that I am not grateful or in this sense of this could be my last day. And
Yeah.
that's not like an overwhelmingly bad thing. It is also reality. Like we all don't know. And what a great way to live. It's like, think of the choices and the risks that people would take if they actually thought about that daily. So I'm sure death is probably something you think of often.
It is actually, yeah. And I highly encourage other people to do this as well, right? And we can train that by looking at nature, right?
Mm,
Because it's so visible there, right? Nature is our biggest teacher.
yeah.
Yeah.
And wh where would you say people to start talking about death? Do you think they should start with like their friends, their parents? Because I mean, obviously it's different for everybody, the type of relationship that they have with people, but
Yeah.
how can people start these conversations to make them less taboo, to make them less heavy,
Mhm.
to make them more open and flexible?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it really depends on the type of relationships you have with your environment and how open your environment is. th- I'd happily share a conversation starter, yes, that
Yeah, cool.
people can implement to, yeah, bring about conversations and to experience. Oh, actually, this invites for more connection.
Mm,
So I'd happily do that. And then
yeah.
another great way is actually to attend a death cafe. So, all across the globe, including online, there are death cafes, and they are meant for people to come with all their questions. It's not a sharing group. It's very much based on practicing the topic and bringing your interest, bringing your curiosities, and that's a really beautiful space um, to kind of build that muscle. And these death cafes, they are led by end of life doulas. Sometimes it's medical professionals who work in, say, hospice, for example.
Mhm. Palliative
People,
care.
exactly,
Yep.
exactly. And
Yeah.
they are very, very rich in nature.
Yeah, I forgot about those death cafes. You have hosted some before, haven't you?
I have.
I feel like you're the ultimate space holder with your facilitating as well as the death doula. Like that is like in the rawest sense, you hold space for people.
Mm,
And just recently, I think in the past 2 years, you
three.
have 3 years, you've come into using plant medicine as a way of, well, healing
Hmm.
grief and loss. And when people come to you with all kinds of wounds, whether it's physical, emotional, and spiritual, what are the most common patterns or pain points that lead someone to seek plant medicine?
Yes,
Yeah.
there is a pattern, and it's a very cliche one, but it's for people get stuck because they are scared to live from their authentic selves.
Yeah.
It,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, Ronnie Brown's the top 5, 7, 10, what regrets of the dying, whatever it is. Number one is I wish I would have
number
lived a
one.
life true to
Yeah,
myself instead of what other people expected of me.
exactly,
And
exactly.
people are convincing themselves. I always say people are addicted to lives they don't even like. They are
Yeah,
addicted to lives they don't even like, which is really sad.
it's so sad.
And it's this learned helplessness. Like they don't think that they can get out of it or do anything different or start again at 50 or oh my, like they just
Yeah,
think that it's too much.
yeah,
And so I'm sure that's kind of like what you see, whether, they have a cancer diagnosis or maybe it is a loss or maybe it is some mental illness that's been going
yeah,
on. Maybe it's a divorce or maybe it's a
yeah,
death of a child or something, any of those big things, it all always boils back down to that same one thing, right?
yeah. It really does. And an important component within that is that people have lost touch with their intuition. So
Mm.
there have been events in their lives that have kind of severed their
Mhm.
connection with their intuition. So obviously, there is a big correlation between the two, and how, if we want to live, if we choose, when we choose to live authentically, a lot of that is based on intuition, because the mind is really not the sole driver of this.
Mm.
So for people to reestablish slowly over time the connection with their intuition will actually make living from their authentic self a little bit more manageable to navigate.
Yeah. Yeah. You can never feel off when you're going with your intuition. Your intuition might
Mm.
not lead you in the quote unquote right direction, but I
Yeah,
don't love the word right and wrong, but it will always lead you in the best direction
yeah,
because
yeah,
it's your gut, your instinct, your
yeah.
yourself, and you can't have regrets when it comes to that. It's when somebody else, like I always say, like you're writing your own story. Don't let anybody else hold your pen. Like
Hmm. Love that.
as you
Yeah.
can't. I think that was actually Harley Davidson, I think, said that. Don't quote me on that. But so in particular, you work closely with mushrooms. Why
Mhm.
this medicine and what do you feel it offers that is uniquely healing?
Okay, that's a great question. So I always, when I speak to people about mushrooms, I make this movement. It's because the mushrooms have such a tender way of holding us. They
Mm,
come with their lessons, do not get me wrong, but they do it in a way that is it's very nurturing, very, very nurturing. Tapping into grief with this medicine in particular is absolutely profound. And I believe it is because of that nurturing effect, right? There's different plant medicines, and they all bring out various benefits.
hmm
But for us to practice what death is, being with endings of various kinds, and that even means moving from one emotion to the next, that builds the muscle in becoming familiar with death. And then these grieving processes come up, right? Also capacity building. All of this is really capacity building of the nervous system.
Mm. Yeah,
Yeah. And the
widening that
mushrooms
window
have
of tolerance.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly.
And so you personally have experienced different types of plant medicines. So a lot of my listeners probably don't even know what plant medicine is, or, they may have heard ayahuasca or mushrooms. Can
Yeah.
you just name some different medicines or what they sort of bring into the body or what kind of healing comes from or what
Yeah.
what you would say about it from your own
Yeah.
experience?
From my own experience, I mean, there's so many plant medicines around, and they've been used for the longest time. So
Mm,
I'm probably not the best one to capture this all in a brief overview. But what they all have in common is that they enhance neuroplasticity, right? Meaning we can create new neural pathways to grow um, to grow over the ones that no longer serves us. And I wouldn't necessarily say quicker, because if anything, most people who embark on a plant medicine journey, they will want to make this part of their lifestyle.
mm.
What maybe is a better, because there are no quick fixes here, right? Sometimes people they are looking for the quick fix.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that because that's
Yeah.
my biggest thing when people I mean I've done plant medicine, I'm all for it, but when people think it is going to be the quicker way to heal,
And the magic pill.
yes, again, or they have this amazing experience and then they go back into the world and they're still kind of an asshole and it's like, well,
Exactly. So
what did you learn? Where's the integration? Where's the fruit
the
smoothie there?
integration is really the key to transformation, right? We can have all the releases and the downloads after that that make us go, oh my God, this is incredible. I'm a new person. But the moment we step back into our day to day, that's where we have to make the changes. And
Mm,
whatever medicine we work with, whatever plant medicine we work with, they
Mhm.
all require that very particular commitment.
Yep. And
Yeah.
when you work with people, do you do integration before, during, and after?
So yes, it's a threefold process.
Yep.
Yeah, so this preparation before 100% set and setting is immense, particularly
Hmm.
when people come with a dysregulated nervous system, right? It's about trust building already with themselves that
Hmm.
they have the agency, right? And that is what we're gonna be practicing on the day, right? There's
Yep.
nothing to achieve on a day. It's a day to be with oneself and to practice stepping into new fields that might feel uncomfortable.
Hmm.
So it's the preparation, then an experience, and an integration. And as I mentioned, the integration is really important. It's vital.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
And would you say that most people just do like the one event, or they do multiple, or it just sort of depends on the person?
Most people come back, and that is because once we start to notice a real difference, we kind of want more because it really feels good to be living more in touch with our authentic self. And
Mm,
we notice that this way of working is really efficient. It's really efficient. It's really profound. It makes our heart grow.
mm.
I wonder if it's also literally, right?
Well, I'm
Uh,
sure the electric magnetic field is
oh,
definitely
God, yeah.
like increased
Yes.
for
Yes,
sure. Absolutely.
exactly. And for some people, it's also they need maintenance. Yeah. As I mentioned earlier, it's not a quick fix, no magic pill. So when someone comes with years and years of depression, that is not gonna be quote unquote wiped
Yep.
in a session.
Yep.
Yeah.
Exactly. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm sure
Any
somebody will
type of
stand up and
therapy
say,
needs maintenance, right? And it's very personal. For some people, it's once a year. For others, it's once every 5 years. For
hmm.
others, it's twice a year, once a month. It really depends on where you are at in your journey.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm.
And to go back, can you walk us through some of the plant medicines that you've done personally? I've only ever done ayahuasca and what was the stuff up the nose?
Happy.
Hape. And
Mhm.
I've done mushrooms, but not in a spiritual cleansing, healing sense. I've done them
Uh-huh.
recreationally, as well as lovely MDMA. But I do feel that experimenting with drugs has for sure opened up my mind and my heart. And it may not have been done in a clinical setting or in a setting that was meant to be a healing setting, but I still believe that it can heal on a level
Mhm.
by opening up your heart and your mind in ways that you wouldn't normally
Mhm.
be exposed to.
Yeah, I 100% agree with you. And for some people, that is their way in.
You have to be careful of the escapism because I definitely did it as a way to escape, but it allowed me to have an experience that
Yeah.
I never normally would have. And I don't know if maybe my heart and my mind would have been as open if I
Yeah.
didn't experience that. I can see it for what it is now, and it may not have had the best intentions, and that's where you have to be careful is stepping back and be like, okay, what is my intention going into
Mhm.
this? Yeah.
Yes, intention is everything.
So yeah, can you just walk us through some of the different plant medicines so if people hear the word, they're like, "Oh, I've heard that before," that are used in a ceremony as a
Ceremonial way.
yeah.
Yes. So we have San Pedro, we have ayahuasca, there is cacao, ceremonial cacao, which is very accessible and a beautiful heart opening medicine. There's obviously the mushrooms. There is kambo,
Hmm.
there's rapé. Those are the ones from the top of my head right now.
Yep.
There's changa.
Mm,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, and so another thing that seems to kind of a thread between the death dueling and the psychedelic work is this word surrender that comes to me. So
Mm.
how do you actually help people trust and let go? Because that's ultimately, the work is helping people to find that self-trust and that self-reliance and that
Yeah,
integration.
yeah. So the surrender already kind of starts now, right? It's each and every moment when we take an extra breath and just tune in with what is. So I really approach this from a sense of we're building a muscle. If someone has been so stuck in their ways for decades, surrender might actually be really tricky for them. So, can we find moments to practice this, right? Instigate the muscle strength and then start building. So, in a way, the kind of like parallel processes, the surrender and the nervous system capacity building,
Mm,
because more we surrender, the more our nervous system will also adapt to holding more,
yep,
and evening out along the way, obviously.
yep.
So it's definitely, in my opinion, it's a practice. It's not something um, we are necessarily comfortable with,
Mm-hmm.
right? So, what elements of comfort can we bring in to make this just a little bit more manageable for you?
Yeah, I love that. And so if you could place one truth, one practice, one awareness in everyone's heart before they died, what would it be?
Hmm. It's really about the authentic living.
Yeah.
It really is. And I'm also a good example of that. I was living so inauthentically at some point, and it was showing in so many ways. And at one point, there was just no denying, right? And just admitting that is a first step, admitting it to yourself, then maybe saying the words out loud, writing it in your journal, right? And then starting this journey of really coming back home. It sounds a little bit cliche, but it really is like that. It's such a truth that once we connect to those parts that have been there all along, it does feel like, wow, our whole being lights up when we reconnect to that.
Yeah.
Right? So an
Yeah.
invitation for people to remember their authentic selves and take actions towards that. And that's your sense of agency, right? We all have a sense of agency. Yeah.
We got to because
Yeah.
if, COVID showed us anything, it showed us how much we don't think we have agency over our
Yeah.
bodies, but
Yes.
that's a whole nother episode. So for the people listening or the person who is grieving or maybe terrified of death or curious about healing, what's one thing you most want them to hear right now?
Yeah. Your grieving process is unique. So honor it in the fullness that is present for you. Also know that you are not alone and you do not have to do it alone.
Mm,
It is about really finding people who you connect with right now and not necessarily want anything from them, but do you have people in your environment that can be there with you
mm.
exactly the way you are?
Yes, so important. I mean, that's the biggest thing is being able to ask for help
Yeah.
and feeling safe being yourself. And and again, a lot of people will live their lives in these environments that are not safe for them to
Mm-hmm.
be themselves, and it's not safe for them to ask for help, but they might feel obligated to keep the relationship because it's a family member, or maybe it's a
Mm-hmm.
relationship they've had for 20 or 30 years, but to really honor yourself and ask you, and there are going to be people, places, and things that you can feel safe in and that you
Yeah,
can be your authentic self. But
exactly.
what has grief taught you personally about love, life, and what truly matters?
Hmm. That's a beautiful question. It has taught me that grief is a tool to get through, right? It's kind of like, I see it like a tunnel, And the moment we set foot in this tunnel, it's like, okay, in the present moment, this is what's alive. Can we tend this? Can we hold this? Right? And we are moving through this process. It's not just one emotion, it's a full process. And how can we bring ritual and ceremony and beauty to this without it needing to be an hour a day, right?
Yeah.
It can be done in a minute a day. A very important component for me was to really be with my grief consistently, right? So the consistency of allowing myself to have whatever of the process came up,
Mm.
and really embrace it, like actively inviting it in, and that
Yeah.
has been amazing for me.
Well, can I honor you and your amazingness and say, this girl, I watched you go through a very, very challenging time. And specifically, you were leaving a 10-year relationship. You were literally moving from Australia to Portugal. You didn't know anybody. You didn't have a job. You had no clue what you were going to do. This was during COVID. So you booked a flight and there was literally like 3 people on the plane because nobody was allowed to leave or come back into Australia. So this was like, and then never mind, you got stuck somewhere else during COVID for like almost a year. Then you came back to do this, and then you were leaving again. And the day before your flight, your back slip disc
Yeah,
yeah, and it was the most,
it was so telling, all of that,
oh
right?
my
Again,
gosh.
body speaks more than a
You
thousand
you had to go
words.
on a 24-hour flight in excruciating pain, like,
Yeah.
and you were like, no, I'm getting on that flight.
I'm
And like,
going.
and I just remember being on the phone with you so many times in Portugal, like in tears, like, what am I gonna do? What am I doing? And just questioning it and going through it. But like you use that as the fuel to keep going
Yeah.
and to learn and to expand and to grow from that. And so, and I love that you mentioned rituals because we obviously are these little ritual queens, you and I, and we are always sharing it
Yeah.
with each other, which I think is
Yes,
also
we love it.
important for people to do. If you do
Yeah.
rituals, find somebody that you can share it with because one, it makes you more exciting. It connects you and it also keeps you a bit more accountable. So, like if I don't send you my full moon card, I'm like, oh, I got to do it. I got to do it.
Yes,
So,
exactly. I am with you there. And it's just in terms of us building more trusting and deeper relationships, practices like these, they help. A gratitude practice, right, does not need to be an hour a day. 5 minutes at the end of the day, send someone your gratitudes,
yeah.
right? And receive someone else's gratitudes. And particularly on days that feel heavier, this
Mm,
is a beautiful ritual to incorporate.
I love that.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so very much for your time. I want to tell people where they can find you on your website, social media, and the link for the question starters that you'll
Yes.
give us.
Yeah. I'm not super active on the socials, I have to admit. But my website is fullcircledoula.org. So you can find me there. And I will for sure send you the conversation starters that you can share with your audience.
All right. Well, thank you again for your time. And thanks for listening to the Honest Healing Podcast. If you liked this episode or you want to hear more or new different topics, please send me a message. You can find me on all the social media channels as my name, Katie Delimon, Delimon, or my website, www.katiedelimon.com.